Started.
Hi, Monsieur. Would you mind starting the recording and the live streaming, please?
Both started.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to everyone present in the council chamber this evening. As you have observed, the meeting is live streamed and we're now recording. Decisions made this evening will be published after the meeting. If any members of Cabinet are joining the meeting remotely, you will not be counted as formally present, but I will welcome your contributions. Having said that, I know there are a number of other meetings tonight, so I'm going to try and press quite rapidly through the agenda. And I've also moved a number of items up so that we can take questions. So the only thing I am going to say is that at the weekend, I got to participate in the return of the Shoreditch 10K, and it felt like I was in the Truman Show or something. It was such a great effort for Hackney. The street cleansing teams had done an amazing job. The sun was shining. The new rain gardens had been put in. There was the sight of the new buildings going up around Shoreditch Park, and it just looked beautiful. I just felt really proud of everyone for doing such a well-organised event and showing off our borough so beautifully, and I think everyone had a really good time. And one other very, very quick thing, I opened the walking, wheeling and cycling conference for Hackney in the City of London a few weeks ago, and I'd asked for wheeling to be put into the title of that conference to include everybody that uses our streets and needs to find them friendly and accessible. And it was really brilliant to be running alongside some people who were wheeling out participating in the 10K in their wheelchairs at the weekend. So it felt like not just words, but action. It was just really great. As I say, I'm conscious there are a number of overlapping meetings, so I'll stop there. But I do welcome the deputation this evening, and after the deputation, we'll be moving straight to agenda item 11, leading Hackney Future Organisation, and then agenda items 6, 7 and 10 will be taken towards the end of the public agenda. So sorry, I think we'll go to item 8 as well after item 11, so just go with me. We've reorganised things slightly to accommodate everybody. So item 1, apologies for absence. Have we got any apologies? Is Councillor Mwemba online?
I'm here online, Chair.
Excellent. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any interest they wish to declare?
I'll just do all councillors.
I'll just do an all declaration for all of us in terms of one of our governors. All of us will know them just in our line of work. So just if you do that for the whole of Cabinet, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bramble. Item 3, urgent unrestricted business. I don't think we have any unrestricted business. No. Item 4, notice of intention to conduct business in private. No representations have been received. However, we do have exempt items for consideration at agenda items 15 and 16, so we will come to those at the end of the meeting. Item 5, questions. At the point of publishing this agenda, no public questions were received. I have received questions from Councillors Binny Lubbock and Councillor Root, which will be taken up at agenda item 8 and agenda item 11. Other questioners will receive a written response. So now we move to the deputation. Can I ask Councillor Jasmine Martins from de Beauvoir Ward to make her introduction? You have up to 1 minute.
Thank you, Mayor Woodley. Good evening, everyone. I'm here with the Chair and Vice Chair of de Beauvoir's TRA to introduce this deputation concerning the urgent issue of vacant properties on the de Beauvoir estate, specifically highlighting those in Benyon Court, St Martin's Court, St Brelades and St Albans. Residents have raised significant concerns about these empty properties, especially given the pressing need for housing within our borough. This issue has also garnered interest from local journalists and community groups, underscoring its importance to the wider community. Our purpose today is to urge the Council to take immediate and decisive action to bring these valuable, underutilised properties back into use. We request that the Council prioritises their refurbishment and allocation to house homeless families, thereby addressing both the visible blight of empty homes and the critical housing crisis faced by many residents. This initiative would demonstrate the Council's commitment to tackling homelessness and efficiently managing its housing stock for the benefit of the community. I'll now let Kelly to talk to the deputation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we now have Lawrence Swindle and Kelly O'Neill, and you have up to 5 minutes for your introductions between you.
There is a housing crisis facing the borough. We have had bad living conditions due to neglect, unaffordable rents, so local people have to move out, increasing homelessness. All of these add to an ever-increasing council budget deficit and consequently the massive increase of borrowing recently identified. The housing policy of in-build across our estates was meant to be a way of increasing housing for local people, built by Hackney, owned by Hackney, increasing the HRA and being a positive housing initiative. However, it has been a flawed policy that after 3 years on de Beauvoir Estate, for example, it is still not happening, and gone from the proposed 50% social housing to 25% and is still in the planning stage. Hackney is currently facing an affordable housing crisis. The issue of housing affordability is particularly severe in Hackney, where house prices and private rents are amongst the highest in London. With that in mind, we now have boarded-up voids across de Beauvoir Estate, making our estate look like something from the 70s. Residents are concerned about why you are proposing building new homes when you can't look after and maintain the ones you already have. Why overcrowd an already extremely large estate when you already have so many empty properties and a general neglect of the properties that exist? Money used to board up these empty properties is a waste, money that should be spent on maintaining the estate. There have been issues with squatters in voided properties, flooding and fires. The unused neighbourhood office has been squatted when residents wanted to keep it open as a community resource. There is a lot of uncertainty due to a lack of communication about what's actually happening on de Beauvoir Estate. Residents are recognising that the estate is severely neglected and being run down, with the priority on the in-builds and not regeneration and the upkeep of existing properties. The council is very happy to take away 5 community flats currently being used by TRAs, which play a very important and valuable role in supporting their communities, rather than dealing with the vast amount of void properties. On de Beauvoir Estate alone, there is potential for 30+ new homes in the void properties. De Beauvoir Estate needs a grown-up policy that caters for the residents and improves the standards of living for all. Use the homes that exist to create homes for the homeless, for the residents suffering from overcrowding, and for the vulnerable, and not just for people who want a valuable postcode. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely do want to repurpose any vacant property. Do we have any questions from the Cabinet members for the deputation? Councillor Palace and then Councillor Walker.
Thank you very much for the deputation. As you say, affordability is of paramount importance in the borough. You know, that's why we're building 1,000 council homes for social rent. You may be aware this year we'll be committing £47 million to capital works on repairs. I was just wondering on the estate, what do you think we should be prioritising as the council? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. I've worked within the resident participation world for many, many years, and what I find is that the people who live on various estates across Hackney do not feel they are being represented well enough and looked after enough. And so therefore what happens is, we've been talking about the in-build on de Beauvoir Estate, for example, for 3 years. What actually happens is that people just feel that they're just being left behind and pushed to the back, and no one actually cares about the people that actually live on that estate. They're more interested in making new buildings for people that don't live on that estate and looking after where we live. And it's got worse. I mean, it really has. So I suppose that if that's a decent answer, I'm not sure, but I think that's all I can. I think just Debovo and everyone across Hackney is really frustrated. That's what I would say.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. And can I just firstly just acknowledge both kind of Lawrence and Kelly as Chair and Vice Chair of De Beauvoir TRA and the work that they've done to really sort of champion residents' needs on that estate. And this delegation has been really important to bring to Cabinet tonight around a really important issue that myself and Councillor Martins have been working closely with the TRA on. What I just wanted to sort of pick up really from what you were saying, Kelly, around what you felt was a sort of lack of communication from the council around the sort of next stages of development and the sort of plans for the estate. Could you sort of maybe say a bit around, how you'd like that to be addressed, and maybe what the sort of TRA have kind of looked at to kind of look at how we can kind of improve the communication between the council and residents on the estate?
I think improvement, there's been zero communication. I think that's the most important point. We have invited people to various ETRA meetings and have cancelled last minute. The last communication we had was possibly more than a year ago, when we were promised that there was going to be a resident steering group set up so people could get involved in what the next process is, but then that never actually happened.
Yeah, and just to add, I think it's fundamental for people who live in difficult areas and difficult estates to really feel that the people that are running the council are actually looking out for them. It's so important. And what I think has happened within the council and within Hackney now is it's not a council-led council, it's an office management-led council. The amount of times I've asked councillors to do something and they've said to me, well, we have to put it through the team who run the council. Well, the councillors are supposed to be running the council and they're not. And it's really, really distressing for a lot of people who can't phone someone up and get a response and an answer to the issues they have when their councillors say, I'm sorry, it's actually the people that run the council officers and not the councillors that are in control. And I think that's a real, real shame.
Apologies, we'll have to move on to the response now. Councillor Nicholson obviously appointed you to try and have that join up between the regeneration of the new building and infill and the condition of those housing estates around that infill so that they didn't fall behind. I invite you now to give your response and to note the challenge that's been brought.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mayor Woodley, and thank you both for bringing the kind of this set of problems, issues, challenges, and sort of failures, indeed, in some cases, to the attention of the council. And thank you, Councillor Martins, just for kind of bringing forward the opportunity for the deputation to be brought here. Look, just to kind of first of all reassure the kind of what are in effect 49 homes in total in 3 blocks, which you're very familiar with. I think you were talking about St Martin's Court, but also Benyon and St Brelades as well. Those 3 blocks will be coming forward as part of a project, a capital project. That decision is scheduled to be made at the next Cabinet meeting at the end of October, which will bring forward the all-important capital investment that's needed to bring these homes back into use. should not underestimate the scale of works that are required to do that. For whatever reason, when they were originally built, many of them, almost all of them, were built with shared bathrooms and shared kitchens of one description or another. There have also been, which I think has been kind of sort of shared, following kind of Councillor Martin's representations, there have also been serious problems with drainage and sewage and so on and so forth. So to rectify all of those various problems and to make these habitable and decent places to live in, with bathrooms and with their own kitchens, that really will require kind of obviously significant work, and apologies in advance for the disruption that that may cause some residents while such works of such a scale are going on. But in the first instance, I hope you'll be reassured to hear that that decision will be taken by Cabinet, and indeed those officers that you were referring to were tasked with working up a scheme. They have spent the last 6 months or so doing exactly that, which is a good thing, and have identified the capital to do that. Your remarks and comments and observations just about the challenges around homes, and homes particularly in Hackney, but across inner London, affordability, for example, and also the business of quality and maintenance and just how good those homes are to actually live in and grow up in. Again, really well-made points, and that has been the subject of not just the regulator for social housing, but also the Housing Ombudsman on the council, their observations about where there have been service shortfalls. And what I would say, and as the Mayor made reference to, is that I've been tasked with leading the council and the council's officers in rebuilding housing services. And I know that you were also touching upon housing regeneration. And I am kind of very concerned to hear that actually engagement has dropped off, because what I will share is that that's not quite what I've been told when I've asked about all of the various sort of engagement plans, schemes, initiatives and actions that have been taking place across the estate, certainly when it comes to the building of new homes on de Beauvoir Estate. And in regards to the ongoing kind of housing services improvement, it's going to be a very, very challenging task for the council to improve all of its housing services. But what I can say, for what it sort of may be worth as some reassurance, is that the council has committed the resources that need to be committed to improve services. It has committed and set in motion everything from back office transformation through to forward and front facing activities and actions. And that is a good thing, but this will take time. It is by no means a small job to, in effect, be the landlord of something in the order of 32,000 homes. And those homes of many, many different ages and conditions. And you...
If you could sum up, please.
But what I will say is that officers are managing to balance the books. So I think 2 projects in de Beauvoir, 2 blocks, will be receiving new lifts as part of the £23 million lift replacement programme. And as we speak, the year 2 of the lift replacement programme is currently being developed. So that's just perhaps another example about investment and change that is coming forward. But in the meantime, if I may suggest that...
We are at time, Councillor Nicholson, sorry.
Sorry, Mayor Woodley. It was just to say that perhaps we could have a further conversation just about where this engagement is falling short, whether it be with regeneration or housing services, and we'll set about rectifying that. And thank you for bringing it along today. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Woodley.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to come up here and to raise your points. And we'll certainly ensure that this is followed up. Thank you all. You can leave now, unless you want to stay. Item 11, leading Hackney future organisation. This sits with me as part of the transformation programme. So I'll do a very brief introduction. After more than a decade of austerity under the former government, councils everywhere are still grappling with rising costs and greater demand. Hackney is no exception. More and more of our budget is rightly going to support children with complex needs and adults who require care, but that means we must work differently if we are to sustain services for the future. That's why our transformation strategy is so important. It sets out a vision for a council that works side by side with communities and partners to tackle inequality and injustice, and to use prevention, early intervention, and new technologies to solve problems before they become crises. And I will say, on the back of what we've just heard, a vital part of that is to improve our communications as well, and our performance monitoring. This report builds on that strategy and sets out the next stage of change, embedding new ways of working that put residents first, make services easy to access, and deliver better outcomes, while also securing our financial sustainability. We're doing all we can to be open and transparent about the challenge. Hackney does face a £51 million budget gap over the next 3 years, and meeting it requires tough decisions. We want to end the constant cycle of service reduction, or what we often refer to as salami slicing, and have a much more strategic and carefully planned approach. This will impact our workforce, with a primary focus on agency staff and a reduction of around 220 posts. But we will do everything we can to minimise compulsory redundancy. We anticipate of the 220 posts, 90 posts may be lost through redundancy. In the face of this, we remain committed to analysing the cumulative impact of change and adherence to our inclusive and anti-racist principles and our values of equality, equity, diversity, inclusion and belonging. These have to run through everything we do, from how we work with residents to how we treat staff to how we deliver services. We know change on this scale is incredibly difficult, but we have to approach it with openness and honesty, because residents and staff in Hackney expect nothing less. Acting as one council, as our chief exec constantly calls us to do, modernising systems, supporting our workforce, and keeping residents at the centre of everything we do, we can protect what matters most and ensure Hackney remains a place for everyone. That is how we will deliver on our goals, putting residents first, securing Hackney's financial future, and changing together as one council to meet the challenges of the years ahead. Are there any questions or comments from Cabinet? I note that Councillor Root has proposed a question. Councillor Root, can you ask your question?
Thank you, Mayor Woodley. The report outlines that Hackney has 9 layers of management below the CEO level, and that this is not the norm for the sector. And as you've said, it also says we can expect 220 job losses by 2028. The report acknowledges the risk to workforce morale and the possibility of industrial action. So can you explain how the trade unions representing council workers have been involved so far with the transformation plan, and how you plan to build on that going forward?
Thank you. I do want to emphasise the importance of trade union engagement, and in case you weren't aware, I do meet with union reps and Councillor Williams on a regular basis outside of the general cycle of the CJC and joint staff meetings in order to hear their concerns. But Councillor Williams, I think, is going to respond to this question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your question. As the Mayor said, the trade unions do use both official and or informal and as well as formal routes to speak with politicians here in the room, as well as our officers. Our staff are our biggest asset, and as a council, we will always be open and transparent with them and with residents about our plans. We continue to be committed to building a good working relationship with our registered trade unions. Senior staff officers have engaged regularly with the trade union colleagues as plans have been developed, and that engagement will continue as we move into implementation. Last week, the Chief Executive used her roadshow to brief all staff on the proposals, and a range of staff engagement is planned moving forward. The Council is committed to minimising compulsory redundancy through natural turnover redeployment and reduction in agency use. We expect to limit the number of redundancies to under half the reductions we make. Our trade union colleagues are involved in all organisational change activity to support their members affected by the change, as well as making financial impact. The
proposals and the People and Organisational Development Strategy, which will come to Cabinet shortly, will help to ensure that we have the right support policies and tools that will drive cultural and behavioural change to support our staff. This will include reviewing management structures, starting with our most senior grades to ensure that we have the right balance of accountability while also empowering our staff to deliver their roles.
I'm conscious of time, but obviously if you have a supplementary, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wonder then, since we're looking at more or less half of those job losses as being redundancies, if we've got a sense of what the total amount of redundancy payments might be. And I ask that after the Housing Ombudsman and the social housing regulators' damning reports, which could have been an opportunity to part company with the manager who oversees the strategic repairs service. But now it seems that that person who stayed on is about to leave with a payment of nearly £400,000 in redundancy.
I'm sorry, it's really not appropriate to talk about individual matters like that in a meeting like this. I think if you want to take that up as a conversation with myself, the Chief Executive, as the Head of Paid Services, we're more than happy to communicate with you. What I will say, though, is that the obligation we have is to reduce the amount of money going out of the council on a year-on-year basis. So although redundancy will cost a large amount when you're looking at that number of staff, it will save the council in the long run. What is more important to us is that we make sure that we're doing the right thing by our workforce, and not finding that those that are left trying to retain those services are struggling to do so if we don't make the right adjustments to the right service in the right way, and that's where our focus will be. Councillor Binny Lubbock, I believe you have a question.
Thank you. My question is, does the council consider 18% of the workforce to be unacceptably high level of agency staff, and has that figure changed or remained the same since 2022?
Thank you. I'll just comment that we do take pride in insourcing and in-house delivery at this council, which does mean that we benchmark higher, perhaps in other councils, in terms of the number of agency staff that we inevitably have to use to cover some of our staff if there's sickness or absences. But there are still changes, positive changes that we can make, not least putting some of those regular agency staff onto permanent contracts. But again, I'll hand over to Councillor Williams for a more substantive response.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Binny Lubbock. The number of agency workers in the council represents on average of approximately 18% of the workforce. In 22-23, 16.5% of our workforce was agency workers. The use of agency workers within Hackney has increased marginally since 2022, and whilst there will always be a need for agency workers, and I know we've had this conversation multiple times, while we will always need agency workers to fill statutory roles and requirements of the councils, there will always be a need for agency workers in services such as waste operatives, care workers and social workers, to ensure frontline staff services are resourced to meet the needs of our residents due to the continued commitment to reduce agency spend. We've been targeting the reduction of agency workers as we've redesigned council services to meet our demands. As a result, we've already forecasted a drastic reduction of agency spend from 53 million in 24-25 to 42 million in 25-26. The introduction of our joint venture scheme in July 25 supports our commitment to reduce agency spend, and the council continues to concentrate on reducing agency spend. And as we redesign our jobs and work patterns, we will seek to convert agency workers into permanent employees where it's appropriate to do so. The engagement of agency workers will always also still be required whilst we're undertaking recruitment activity to permanent roles.
Do you have a supplementary for clarity?
Yes, just a very quick one. I'm a bit concerned that if we have redundancies, as you say, that would reduce the bill over a long period of time, that might lead to an increase in the need of agency workers. So I'm just wondering if those forecasts we think are going to be reliable.
I think it's important to acknowledge that this is not work that's done in isolation. We are not just looking at the workforce in isolation. We're looking at enabling services across the board. So the idea is that we will run the council more efficiently. And I don't just mean efficiently in terms of cuts. I mean efficiently as in people answer the phones, as in, you know, we have less portals in terms of routes to customer service and engagement. And that we get responses out there more quickly and effectively. So I think to be honest, we're making quite a modest estimate of impact overall on the council. It could be that we have to go further, but our ambition is that we will work with this advice from the external consultant with our best measures. I don't know if Kieran, you want to come in on this as the lead for this work.
Yeah, all I think I would add, Woodley, to what you've said is that these are best case estimates and made with the information we've got at this point in time, having reviewed the programme in the round. So we are as confident as we can be at this point in time. As we move through the programme, some things will be slightly up, some things will be slightly down, but I think we're really confident in the overall direction of travel to deliver a sustainable workforce and reduce agency usage. Thanks.
The only thing that I would add there is that this work continues to be monitored very closely. Myself, the officers, as well as the mayor, will be updated should there be any move in the wrong direction. So it is something that we do take very seriously and have taken very seriously. Throughout my entire time as lead member for HR, we've had regular meetings and discussions with the trade unions, so I do totally appreciate your concerns and your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I understand we also have another question from Councillor Reid.
Thank you very much. The report recommends changing the way that the council's property estate is managed to avoid duplicating effort and variable standards. So I wondered if you could provide more details about how the centralised corporate landlord function will function, particularly to kick life into the stalled Space Bank programme and the underuse of community halls across the borough.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman, you are going to respond to this one, please.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I'll begin by addressing the first part of your question on the corporate landlord function. Our strategic property services expand in its responsibility for maintaining and investing in all the council's general fund property. This means property professionals will manage these assets to consistent standards rather than acting as advisors to occupying services. This approach aims to free up frontline staff in those services to focus on resident needs by centralising property management responsibilities. So in a nutshell, that's how that works. On the second part of your question on Space Bank, Space Bank is an initiative that connects unused spaces owned by the council and its partners with community groups that can use them. These spaces can vary in size and primary use and may be available at different times. A dedicated officer within Strategic Property Services manages this programme, collaborating with VCS-focused colleagues and corporate property teams to advise on Hackney-owned spaces and the relevant regulations. This officer also works with council services directly to identify available spaces and community needs. It's been quite successful. For example, one of the key achievements of the Space Bank initiative is the creation of the Shared Power, a global majority-led network developed by the VCS. This network focuses on equity and collaboration to make the best use of Hackney's community assets. These partnerships are built upon new methods of working with the VCS that began during the pandemic and align with the principles outlined in the updated VCS strategy. In relation specifically to the community halls, for a start, community halls are not general fund property, so the corporate landlord model wouldn't directly impact on them to begin with. But we are continuing to look at the use of community halls. The shared power network, which I referred to earlier, is now developing a pilot to test collaborative approach to operating and maximising the use of underused community halls. This is a collaborative project involving cross-council teams, local residents group, and steered jointly with a representative from the aforementioned global majority-led shared power network. Thank you.
Do you need to ask a supplementary for clarity?
No, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no more comments, can I move the recommendations as set out in the report? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Item 8. This is the overall financial position. This report shows an overspend of nearly £10 million at this early stage of the fiscal year, which does underline the importance of acting responsibly now to protect Hackney's long-term financial sustainability. However, we have made real progress, including 20 million of savings proposals and reductions in pressures such as homelessness prevention. But challenges in adult social care and in education remain significant, and we will have to continue to take action. That's why we're establishing an Adult Social Care Finance Improvement Board and driving forward measures to build resilience across all our services so we can continue to protect residents and frontline services despite mounting national pressures. Councillor Chapman, do you want to?
Thank you, Mayor. I regret to report that the current OFP shows a projected overspend of 10 million as the Mayor has just set out. So this is of course of concern, and the reasons for it are set out in section 2 of the report. If I can particularly draw your attention to section 2.8, the main issue is the increase in the forecast overspend in adults' health, showing an overspend on the year of 3.5 million, which is worryingly an increase of nearly £1 million over that in June. This is a serious position given the overall financial position. As you can see from the reserves table at 2.4, at the current rates, the overall overspend, our reserves will be exhausted in 2 to 3 years. And of course, it's likely that the need to ask for exceptional support for government would arise well before then. So it's a serious matter. But I would like to thank our CLT for all the hard work they're putting in to manage this, and mitigate this situation. And there's a whole list of that set out in 2.11 of the report. Can I particularly draw your attention to the new Adult and Social Care Finances Improvement Boards, which has been set up to work with managers of adult services to seek to ameliorate the financial situation there. I should also draw your attention to the position of the homeless prevention budget, where while considering to spend at levels much higher than last year, have managed to achieve a £3 million reduction in the current year forecast, which is very welcome. So thank you. The report also proposes a further charge of savings over £20 million over the 3-year medium-term financial period, along with proposals for the HRA. The former will make a significant contribution towards the £50 million 3-year gap, which we reported on the medium-term financial plan, which we reported, I think, last with the Budget Setting Council in March last year. I commend the report to Council. Cabinet, apologies.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Any questions or comments from Cabinet? No. I note that Councillor Benny Lubbock has proposed a question.
Sorry. My question is, what is the Mayor asking central government for in the spending review, and what lobbying has she done that will lead to more certainty for Hackney to allow for more investor-safe proposals to be implemented with multi-year budgets and forward planning?
Thank you. I mean, the best investor safe proposal surely is the huge commitment we've had in central government to build more housing, which is something we are ready to grab any funding we can get as Hackney is building as fast as we can to try and meet the needs in our borough. But following the publication of the spending review, along with other council leaders, I did raise my concerns and made some specific asks in a briefing meeting. Actually, we had several briefing meetings with the Minister of State for Local Government and Devolution. However, the main government policy which will impact on our ability to allow for more investor-safe proposals is the Fair Funding Review, which will introduce an updated local government external funding system in 26-27. In July 2025, the government published a consultation paper on the review, to which the council made a really full and detailed response. The government did not publish any grant estimates to illustrate the effect of the review on council finances, so it's not entirely possible at this stage to determine exactly how Hackney will be affected. We will know the financial impact with certainty in the end of December, around a week before Christmas. But what we can say is there's been an extensive amount of modelling by London councils and others, and London councils has been working with all of us as London leaders to lobby to improve the outlook for our boroughs. And we've been supporting this work by Central London Forward, and of course by our MPs. So alongside other leaders in London, I've been calling for the formula to be updated to ensure that levels of deprivation take housing costs into account. And I've referred to this also in scrutiny meetings. That the data inputs around daytime population and visitor numbers are accurate, and crucially that the funding for children's services is sustained. We've also asked for an extension to the proposed transition period for those councils that will struggle with the outcome to avoid any sort of cliff edge and ensure that all boroughs have time to adjust to the changes. And that this be a beginning of a process to grant local areas the powers and flexibilities to raise additional revenues. There's quite a few ideas around what that might look like. One final point on this is that we have asked for the local government financial settlement to provide a multi-year finance settlement just so that we can plan ahead. And the commitment that was made was to reduce the number of funding pots and that sort of competition for funding so that we'd have more certainty and flexibility to judge local priorities. So this should assist with forward planning. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, thank you. If the certainty that we are provided with in December shows that we are going to, as Councillor Chapman said, be requiring additional financial support within 2 years, what action will you be taking sort of preemptively of that? And will you be asking for that financial support as soon as you get that certainty?
So as you can imagine, in the work that we've been doing in order to meet the budget gap, we've had a suite of proposals, some of which we've taken ahead and some of which we've deferred in the hope that we might not have to go there. So if we have an outcome at the end of December that means we have to look for more savings, some of that work has already been done. However, there are further opportunities, I believe, in that investor save area. In terms of our transformation paper that you heard earlier, we've also had a second round of work that's been done that's about meeting demand and putting in place early prevention. And there's quite a suite of proposals there in terms of how we can really investor save, whether that's through the kind of work that I've spoken to you about numerous times in terms of additional special schools or additional resource provision for children with SEND, and how can you apply that across other areas of demand, not least housing in the face of homelessness. So we'll be lobbying for that as much as possible in order not to have to make further, more stringent savings and cuts. If there are no more comments or questions, can we move the recommendations as set out? Agreed, thank you.
Agreed.
Item 9, Capital Update and Property Disposals and Acquisitions Report. This report shows how we're using our capital programme to deliver on our manifesto and strategic plan, from investing over £1 million in safer, more energy efficient classrooms at Morningside Primary, to better communications and accessibility through a new website and upgraded town hall technology. We're also securing £2.1 million in transport investments, supporting our climate commitments, and by backing the Pedro Club with a long lease investment, we're strengthening a much loved community institution, giving young people and local families modern facilities and a lasting community hub in an area that needs it most. Councillor Chapman, would you like to introduce the report? I hope I haven't stolen your thunder.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, just wanted to say, I always feel that this report is often a sort of a counterweight to the OFP, because although we have a very difficult revenue position, we still have a very ambitious capital programme. If you look at the whole schedule of it over the many years that it runs for, it's more than £2 billion investment in the borough and the people, resources for the people of Hackney, and it's something I think is rightly cared for. There's a huge list of projects in this report, which we're very pleased to announce, and the Mayor's been through them all, so I won't repeat them. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from Cabinet? Let's move the recommendations as set out. Thank you. Item 12, tenancy management policy. This updated tenancy management housing policy brings together our approach into one clear framework, ensuring we comply with the latest law and regulation while delivering a fair, respectful and anti-racist housing service that makes people feel safe and makes it easier for residents to do business with us. It also strengthens our commitment to supporting residents with additional needs, so everyone has the help to sustain their tenancy, maintain their well-being and access services on an equal footing. I'd like to invite Councillor Nicholson to introduce the report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Woodley. And it is sort of one of those moments where actually housing services are gradually working their way through a vast range of policies that, to be quite frank, are completely out of date and don't reflect modern day legislation when it comes to tenancies and tenancy rights in this particular case. So officers have led the charge in a comprehensive review, and as you rightly pointed out in your introduction, have brought together all of the current laws and legislation around tenancies. But it also helps tenants and residents sort of recognise processes and procedures. Some of those may be to do with inheritance, for example. Some of those are to do with actually the definition of tenancy and establishing and clarifying rights of both the landlord, the council, but equally those of the tenant as well. Really important that all of this is brought together in one place and in one kind of coherent and updated document, and that's what this particular document sets out to do. I'm going to have to say that it is restricted quite considerably by the legislation as it stands, and I think as things currently stand and as things progress through in Parliament in due course, clearly there will be a review around tenancy rights, and that in turn will then be captured and reflected back into this policy. So as the new legislation under the current government is brought forward, and that can be reflected in the policy itself. But in the meantime, officers have quite rightly and quite appropriately taken the initiative and brought everything up to date. I do believe, Woodley, and this may be slightly anecdotal, but I do believe that the last time this policy was looked at was in the heady days of Hackney Homes. And since that time, there has been next to no review work undertaken on this tenant management policy. So I think all can perhaps sort of offer a round of applause to the officers who have got to grips with it and have brought it up to date. Much needed and very timely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for that acknowledgement for our officers. Any questions or comments from Cabinet? In that case, can we move to agree the report? Item 10, nomination for appointment of local authority governors, Stormont House Special School and Parkwood Primary School. Clearly, nominating the right people to lead our schools is of the utmost importance, and I strongly endorse this report to Cabinet. I'll invite Deputy Mayor Bramble to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mayor Woodley. Joint first in the country for our SATs results. A-level results, A to A star, 31%, which is against 28% nationally. Many of our schools reporting 100% BTEC with either merit or higher grades. A-level, good results, early learning goals, looking at Councillor Sizer. I mean, you talk about every key stage. Hackney children are hitting the mark time and time again. And I just want to thank everyone who works in our schools and in the wider community, parents and carers and Hackney Education, and everyone politically that supports them to do their best. As Mayor Woodley says, but we're not complacent, Mayor Woodley. Those markers where we are high and want to reduce and have better outcomes, we continue to work on. Our governors play an important part. Some of you as councillors are councillors too. And as Mayor Woodley says, it's ensuring that we have the right people dedicated to those roles. So set out before you, we have 2 people that want to be governors, and just presenting that to you. We also have, that's 2 for Stormont House. I also want to highlight one of our colleagues, Councillor Adejaya, wants to be a governor at Parkwood School as well, as we all know.
Any questions or comments from Cabinet? No. Can I move to the recommendations? Can Cabinet approve?
Thank you. Of those people that always stand to be governors, thank you.
Item 13, nomination for appointment of local authority committee member at New Regent's College. And again, over to Deputy Mayor Bramble.
Thank you. Again, it's still an important role, and we just want to thank everyone that works in the older section of education, and just commending the recommendation to Cabinet.
Any questions or comments from Cabinet? Okay, let's move to recommendations. Cabinet approve.
I just wanted to say that you and I would know Eleanor Schooling quite well, because she was chair of Hackney Schools Group Board, which was the board that I put together before. It was an inception idea that I created to ensure that we went from good to outstanding. I felt like to be outstanding, we have to improve our exclusions, improve inclusion, and that's something that we're really working on. So just want to thank Eleanor for her work in that previous role and to be governor now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move to item 6, unrestricted minutes of the previous meeting of Cabinet. Do Cabinet have any comments they wish to make on the unrestricted minutes? No. Can we approve? Agreed. Item 7, unrestricted minutes of the Cabinet Procurement and Insourcing Committee. Councillor Chapman, do you want to share any observations?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, again, and I won't go through the whole list again, it just shows the huge range of issues and subjects to the Cabinet Procurement and Insourcing Committee deals with, delivering that huge capital programme that we were talking about earlier. You know, I could list all the things. I just mentioned the Dockless cycle scheme that's in there, which is a really important thing for residents of our borough, and moves us so far forward on transport issues and the green in the borough. And a really, really important apprenticeship scheme for children with the EHC plan. Just demonstrates the huge range of things that the council do. So it's for noting, isn't it? So I'll ask Cabinet to vote it.
Thank you. Can Cabinet note the unrestricted minutes? Thank you. So item 14, exclusion of the press and public. I don't think we've got anyone here unless there's anyone online. But we need to end the live streaming, please. That's.
Monsieur, please can we end the live stream, please, and keep the recording?